Welcome to the official start of the Dragonverse, where our motto is familiar powers, unfamiliar heroes. Stick around for some epic adventures as we get started with none other than the dynamic Arachnid.
We begin inside one of Mr. Pavone's many Italian restaurants. He sits at the table alone. One of his men, Tony, walks in with another man. "Hey, boss, got something that requires your attention." "What is it?" Mr. Pavone sees the new man. There's something familiar about him. "This here's Gary Butler, former director of Mr. Ford's security teams. He wants to join up with us." "Join us? Did Mr. Ford give you your walking papers?" "No, sir. His son did." "Why would he do that?" "I don't know, sir. There was a company-wide email from him. My entire operation was dismantled." "Were other areas of business affected?" "I can't say for sure, but I'd imagine." Mr. Pavone begins to think. "Tony, introduce Mr. Butler to Ezio. Then prepare my car." "Yes, sir, boss." Tony leads Gary away as Mr. Pavone continues to ponder the situation. Next, we see the exterior of Mr. Ford's mansion. The doorbell rings. Several minutes later, Ford Jr. opens the door. "Mr. Pavone, what are you doing here?" "I decided to pay your old man a visit, have a drink, discuss some business." Ford Jr.'s expression softens. "You'd better come inside." In the dining room, the two share a glass of whiskey. Ford Jr. looks into the crackling fireplace. "I found him the next morning, lying there with his neck broken. I'm sorry to hear that, son. He was a great man. We may have different definitions on great. Your father made many enemies. None were bold enough to do something like this. Whoever did this was a professional. Security never had any idea anyone else was in the house. So that's why you fired Mr. Butler." "Yes. How could I trust him to keep me safe after that?" "I can understand that, but your father would have fired him to his face. My father and I do things differently." "How's your mother, your sister?" "They're both managing. Mom and Amy came home for the funeral, then went back to Europe. It was good to see them both." "I thought Amy took an interest in the family business." "She did, but Dad favored me, so she gave up." "Any women in your life?" "A few, but none worth mentioning." "So your father left you the reins of the business?" "Yep, all the responsibility on my shoulders." Mr. Pavone looks at the young man's impressive physique. "Well, it certainly seems like you won't have any trouble carrying the heavy burden." "I assure you, all of my father's resources are being put to good use. I will find who did this." Ford Jr.'s phone rings. "I have to take this." "Of course. I should get going myself." Mr. Pavone thanks him for the whiskey and leaves. Back outside, as Mr. Pavone is helped into his vehicle, he takes one final look at the house. "Everything okay, boss?" "I need some time to think. Take me home." The car pulls out of the driveway into the night. The next morning, we see Thomas as he somersaults downstairs into the kitchen. His mother is startled by his entrance. "Well, someone's in a good mood. How the hell did you do that?" Thomas, not having seen his mother prior to his flip, stared at her for a moment before smiling wildly. "It's like you used to say, Mom, if I eat my fruits and veggies, I was going to grow up real strong." Mrs. Blake eyes her son and smiles. "Right. Speaking of, I really appreciate the talk we had. I think you and Dad were right about a lot of things, even if you didn't know it." "Of course I was. Since I seem to be a fountain of wisdom, I'd tell you to keep up this joy you've got. Don't let anything rain on your parade." "You got it, Mom." "I've got to get to work. Eat something before school, my darling boy." Miss Blake gives her son a kiss on the cheek before leaving home. After school, we see Arachnid swinging home for the day. As he's mid-swing, he spots something unusual. Running along the rooftops are several blades. Arachnid quickly changes direction and begins to pursue them. He follows them until he webs the first one by the ankles. The rest of the blades form their energy blades around their hands. Arachnid prepares to fight when Seoulkiller shows up. You should be more careful about being led into traps. You should be more careful about who you trap. Enough of this. We have a job to do. Men? The blades begin to attack. Arachnid does his best to dodge their attacks. He makes sure to avoid the blades as they slash past him. He catches the wrists of two blades attacking him and knocks them both out with a jumping double kick. He flips over a trio of attackers behind him. He webs them all, but they manage to slice his incoming webs with their blades. The three blades charge him, and Arachnid continues to dodge more strikes. Moments later, the blades are down. Arachnid and Seoulkiller are the last ones standing. Not wasting much time, Seoulkiller attacks. He immediately launches into his taekwondo. Arachnid responds with his own training. Once again, Seoulkiller's superior technique gives him a slight advantage. He lands a few blows on the hero, even managing to knock him on his back. Arachnid springs back to his feet without a moment's rest. Seoulkiller can't react in time. He gets kicked in the chest and rolls back. Your skill is evident. Perhaps we should shift the battle. What do you have in mind? Seoulkiller begins to remove his mask. What are you doing? The best fights are when two opponents look each other in the eyes as they duel. Or a clever way to get me to reveal my secret identity. What do you have to hide? As Seoulkiller removes his mask, revealing his face to Arachnid. Arachnid stands frozen as Ian looks at him. Seoulkiller takes his stance. Well? Arachnid remains still. Seoulkiller charges him anyway. The young hero is completely thrown off his game. Seoulkiller lands 5 hits in a row before Arachnid dodges the next one. As Seoulkiller charges again, amplifying his abilities to their maximum, it's not enough, as Arachnid dodges his blow, and the last thing he sees is Arachnid's foot. We see Detective Mercury as she sits at her desk. A welcome back banner is on full display in the precinct. Eventually, she makes her way to the chief's office. Detective? Sir, I just wanted to say thank you for the warm welcome back. Of course. You know how much we value you. She smiles. Thanks, Chief. The chief's office phone rings. He checks the ID and frowns before answering the phone. Hello? Chief, how are you these days? Fine. Looking for those you've paid off on my force. Don't worry about that right now. I've got something else for you. Oh, really? Enlighten me. Detective Mercury looks on with curiosity. He motions for her to shut the door and sit down. He puts the call on speaker, but is careful to lower the volume. If you're not sitting down, you're going to want to. Get to the point, Pavone. Mr. Ford is dead. Detective Mercury and Chief Wilson exchange shocked glances. All right. Assuming this is true, tell me everything you know. When Seoulkiller wakes up, he's trapped in a massive web. As he looks around, he sees Arachnid sitting close to him. Where are we? Not far from where we fought. Why didn't you leave me with the others? Because we need to talk. Ian? Ian looks confused. How do you know my name? Arachnid hesitates before slowly lifting his mask. Ian is perplexed. Thomas? It's you? Yeah, Seoulkiller. Ian hangs his head. You must have many questions. How could you work for Mr. Fei Wan? I trusted you. I need answers. I wish things were so simple. Mr. Fei Wan rescued me from the Yakuza as a boy, taught me everything I know. I wasn't always Seoulkiller. When I met you, I was retired. Set free, more like. I was blackmailed in returning to work for him. If I refused, Mr. Takanawa and everyone else there would have been killed. I suppose I could say I had no choice in all of this, but that's not entirely true. All I can say is I'm sorry I got caught up in this line of work again. If you no longer trust me, that would be understandable. Arachnid and Seoulkiller are silent for a while. Seems we've been put in a bad situation. You've committed a crime, at least one that I know about. Yet you're also my mentor and friend. I don't want you to go to jail. So what is to be done? I don't know. I'm thinking. Maybe there's a way to salvage this. What's that? Help me take down Fei Wan. How? The ECPD is already coming after him for the situation at the docks. The ECPD will have to wait for proper authorization to make a move on him. We can deliver him to them. Do you think we could win? I don't know. I've never beaten him, and he's stronger and faster than I am. Then again, so are you. True. Hey, how are you able to take repeated strikes from me? I pull my punches, but most guys go down with little effort. Do you remember when I told you about Ki on our first day? Yeah. There's your answer. Mr. Fei Wan, myself, and the Blades use Ki to augment ourselves and our abilities. If I didn't, I wouldn't last long against you. I see. All right, let's do it. Ian smiles. Thank you, Thomas. We should train before launching our attack. Deal. Now I believe it's my turn to ask some questions. Ask away. Ian begins to ask about Arachnid's origins. We return to the ECPD precinct. Detective Mercury and Chief Wilson are still in his office. So what are we going to do with this information? The only thing we can do. Investigate. I want you to speak with the Ford family. See if you can confirm any of these details. Will do. Why do you think Pavone would tell us this? What does he gain? Why keep his death a secret in the first place? So his enemies can't act? That would make sense, but maybe there's more to it. Whatever it is, I'll do my best to find out. At Mr. Fei Wan's HQ, Seoulkiller returns to him as the man is sitting in his desk. What kept you? Arachnid. Did you kill him? No, he escaped again. This is beginning to become bothersome. We can't keep losing men. You need to kill him. Don't worry, my next plan will be sure to defeat him. Good. If you fail again, I'll have to visit Mr. Takanawa, see how he's kept up his training. Seoulkiller nods solemnly. I won't let you down. See to it that you don't. The following day, Detective Mercury arrives at the Ford mansion. She knocks on the door. Several moments later, Ford Jr. answers, dressed in a nice suit. He smiles. Hello there. May I assist you, officer? Detective Mercury, I was hoping to ask you some questions about your father. My father? What about him? It's come to our attention that he may be missing, or worse. I promise not to take too much of your time. Ford Jr. looks at his watch. Detective, I really need to get going. But I suppose I could spend some time answering a few questions. The detective smiles. Excellent. Let's get started. That afternoon, Thomas walks slowly into the kitchen. His parents watch TV in the living room. Mrs. Blake sees her son and notices his expression. Tommy, is everything okay? Mostly. Anything you want to talk about? Have you ever had someone betray your trust? Sure. Before I met your dad, I had a massive crush on a boy named Chris Taylor. Turns out he liked me too. He said all the right things, and he was super nice. Before we were set to go on our date, I found out he had a girlfriend. I was devastated. What happened? I never spoke to him again. Dad? If someone betrayed my trust, I'd try and find out why. While there's no good reason for such actions, there still may be room for empathy. Hypothetically speaking, let's say a friend committed a crime. The friend uses blackmail as an excuse. What then? Blackmail and peer pressure are terrible, even as an adult. It can be difficult to refuse such manipulation. I agree with your father, but ultimately you have to make sure you aren't the one being manipulated. Okay. I hope that helped. It did. Thanks. Anytime, son. The following evening, we see Arachnid and Seoulkiller across the street from Mr. Fei Wan's skyscraper. Both of them are stretching. These last few days of training have been useful, though I'm still not sure of our chances. Whatever happens, I'll be sure you get out alive. I'm your sensei. If anything, you're my responsibility. Yeah, well, only one of us can shoot webs from his wrists. Behind his mask, Arachnid smiles.
You ready?
Let's go. The two head towards the building. Mr. Fei Wan sits at his desk. He hears a bit of fighting outside before the door is kicked open. Arachnid and Seoulkiller enter the office. Mr. Fei Wan remains seated while several blades stand at attention. The two walk up to Mr. Fei Wan.
Didn't expect to see us here, did you?
Not really. I'm done doing your dirty work. You and I are finished. I've heard that before. What makes you think today will make that a reality?
Because he's got me to help him.
You believe the two of you are enough?
Maybe.
Then let's find out. Mr. Fei Wan whistles, and more blades funnel into the room.
Here we go.
Back in the Wilsons' neighborhood, Annie and her father are jogging together.
You seem more happy.
Tommy and I have been in a really good spot lately.
Mm-hmm. He still plan on making up for missing Mass?
I told you, Dad, that wasn't his fault.
Right. You know, I did want to talk to you about the situation with Detective Mercury.
I figured you would.
I won't lie. Seeing what happened to her had me worried. What if that had been you was the first thing I thought. However, despite the harm she suffered, Detective Mercury is back on the job. Point is, I think you'll be great, no matter what you choose. At the end of the day, protecting and serving is all that matters, not how.
Dad, I know you only want what's best for me, even if that's not what it felt like. That being said, maybe I could hone my tech skills in the meantime. Thanks for the support, Dad.
Chief Wilson gives his daughter a pat on the shoulder. Annie smiles and takes off sprinting towards the house, and Chief Wilson runs after her. Back at Mr. Fei Wan's HQ, the battle is in full swing. Arachnid dodges several attacks from the blades. Seoulkiller is dodging as well. However, Seoulkiller is quickly able to turn the tide on the blades and begins to knock out his opponents. Arachnid is surrounded and takes a few punches and kicks. Fortunately, Arachnid knocks out a few blades but still has several to deal with. Seoulkiller charges Mr. Fei Wan and begins to attack him. Mr. Fei Wan simply dodges his attacks with both arms behind his back. Arachnid gets cut a few times by the blades. Seoulkiller turns up the intensity, and Mr. Fei Wan is forced to use a hand to block the incoming strike. However, once Arachnid takes another cut, Seoulkiller's focus shifts. Mr. Fei Wan notices. Have I taught you nothing? Your focus is to remain on your opponent at all times. Mr. Fei Wan makes Seoulkiller pay with a devastating combo that knocks him down. Arachnid manages to take down a few more opponents. He fires a quick web at Mr. Fei Wan, who easily dodges it. This allows Seoulkiller a moment to recover and resume his attack, this time the key blade appearing over his right hand. Arachnid attempts to join the fray, but Mr. Fei Wan sees him coming. With another devastating combo, Arachnid is knocked to the ground. The two of you setting your sights on an old man. I feel honored. As Annie and Chief Wilson return home, Chief Wilson spots a spider web near the door. I met with Arachnid recently. Asked him to reveal his identity.
Did he?
No, but perhaps figuring out who he is isn't the most important thing. He has been aiding our efforts to keep the population safe. Not to mention, he saved your life.
That he did. Does this mean you're a fan of his now?
I didn't say all that, but I'm willing to admit he's a positive in the city. I'm sure wherever he is right now, he's saving someone's life. As the fight continues, it's Mr. Fei Wan against Seoulkiller and Arachnid. Mr. Fei Wan and Seoulkiller clash blades. Arachnid attempts a swing kick that fails, and Seoulkiller takes several slashes. Remember, eyes on me. The fight goes on even more. Mr. Fei Wan stays on the defensive as Arachnid rejoins the fray. You two have never fought together before today. This will prove to be an advantage for me. He kicks them both away, but the two recover almost immediately. This isn't going well. We're hanging in there, and all we need is an opportunity. Assuming I provide you with one. A second blade appears over his right hand. 2 blades? Can you do that? No. Now Mr. Fei Wan goes on the offensive. He kicks Arachnid out of the doorway. With Seoulkiller isolated, he manages to wear down his defenses
until he drops Seoulkiller with a kick. Before he can finish him off, Arachnid returns to the room. Now we can fight one-on-one. The fight resumes. Arachnid is kept on the defensive but evades every sword strike. He waits for his opening, and when he sees it, he launches Mr. Feiwan with a kick. Arachnid attacks with renewed force. Mr. Feiwan does his best to avoid him, but ends up taking several massive strikes. With a double kick, he is knocked on his back. Incredible. No one's knocked me down in 40 years. You never knocked him down? That's evidence you can talk to a knee. I think I see what's going on now. Ian, I'm disappointed. You never told me you had a student. By design. I see. Arachnid, I have to thank you. In raw abilities, I am outclassed. You're faster and stronger than I am. We shall have to continue this another time. I don't think so. Oh, but I do. I've been stalling for the past few minutes. You're out of time. A helicopter appears in the window. Arachnid senses danger and tackles Seoulkiller. The two scramble to cover before the minigun opens fire, shattering the windows. Mr. Feiwan leaps to the open helicopter door. Seoulkiller catches one final look from him. Mr. Feiwan is smiling, and the helicopter leaves. Later in the night, as Arachnid and Seoulkiller are sitting on a rooftop, Ian is looking at his mask, and Arachnid removes his. Well, I guess we didn't get him after all. True, but we made him retreat. That's a win. Yeah, one thing's certain. You gotta teach me about this key stuff. Martial arts is hard enough without throwing in key training. Thomas looks at him, pleading. However, I believe I can make something work. One thing is for certain. Seoulkiller is dead and gone this time. Are you still gonna turn yourself in? That's the right thing to do. If we go together, maybe we can keep you out of jail. I'll appreciate it, no matter what. Ian puts a hand on the young hero's shoulder. Thanks, kid. You really saved me back there. I was just doing the right thing, helping out my sensei. The two stand and bow respectfully.
Hey guys, Big Green Dragon here. I hope you enjoyed what you just watched, and if you did, think about sticking around, subscribing, notification bell. Oh, I think that's the usual stuff YouTubers say. Anyways, seriously, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and hey, come along on this journey with me as we explore the dynamic Arachnid, and of course, many others to be following. I don't have a consistent upload schedule yet. I am just one dragon. But I promise that I will get the videos to you as best as I can in a timely manner. Until next time, take care. Dragon out.